that we found out that Blake Lively's team, according to her attorney, is actually planning to file an amended complaint in their lawsuit against Baldoni and others. According to her attorney, Michael Gottlieb, that is going to include new claims from Blake Lively and going to be bringing this lawsuit against new defendants. He's, of course, meeting for the first time in court today. It was about a 90-minute hearing.
The same tactic that they're doing over and over again of trying to manipulate the courts to get what they want.
Blake Lively's legal team was still unhappy even after Judge Lyman gave them an extension until February 14, Valentine's Day. They went back and requested an extension until March 5, despite their best efforts. Judge Lyman was not pleased with it, though. They wanted to wait even longer, even though they had already been given additional time. Blake's side clarified that in order to bolster their motion, they planned to summon additional witnesses to testify against Justin Baldoni. Jenny Slate, who portrayed Baldoni's sister in the movie It Ends With Us, was one of the significant witnesses they considered. A well-known Blake supporter had previously stood up for her and deemed the charges against Blake baseless. She had publicly backed Blake and delivered a strong speech in favor of her. As a friend and co-star of Blake Lively, I fully support her taking legal action against the people who attacked her reputation. For many of us, Blake is a leader, a loyal companion, and a dependable source of emotional support. According to Jenny, the information released about the attacks on her is distressing and harmful. I admire her bravery and I stand with her. At first, Jenny seemed totally dedicated, ready to back Blake's claims in court, but when it came time to testify, she shocked everyone, Blake most of all. Jenny reportedly denied any direct involvement in the matter and distanced herself from it entirely. Blake's lawyers believed she had embarrassing encounters with Baldoni that would help their case, so they attempted to subpoena her despite her reluctance. Nonetheless, many speculated that this was only a strategy to sway the court by adding additional women to the case, creating the appearance that Blake's claims were more widely acknowledged. But when things didn't go as planned, Blake's team had to come up with a new plan fast. Judge Lyman did not trust their request for another extension at that time. When Blake asked why they now needed more time, his legal team responded in a long and overly complicated way that they needed more time to add more parties to the complaint. Jed Wallace and his company, Street Relations, were one of them. Blake's team claimed that Wallace's 10-page complaint, which he filed in a Texas federal court, overlapped their case. They claimed that handling his case took longer. It looked like a good call at first glance. But it wasn't that simple. Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, was prepared. During the terrible January fires in Los Angeles, he physically proved, armed with receipts, that Blake's team had turned down his team's request for an extension. Despite the fact that Baldoni's staff had been dealing with a genuine crisis, the legal team refused to grant them any leeway. Friedman exposed their hypocrisy by saying, "We have no objection to their request now, despite the Lively party's inexplicable refusal to grant an extension when we requested one during the Los Angeles wildfires." In essence, he extended their own response period to April 15 by saying that if Blake's team received an extension, Baldoni's team would also want one. Wayfarer's legal team, which represents Baldoni and his production company, stated that they were not overly worried about Blake's team receiving additional time. In essence, they said, "Take your extension, we don't care." However, they made it clear that whatever extra time Blake's team had meant more time for them. Their stance was clear: if Blake's team was successful in obtaining what they wanted, Baldoni's team would further delay their own response deadline in order to create an even playing field. Fair is fair, after all. But Brian Friedman wasn't finished yet. The chamber shook when he disclosed one more item. With calm composure, he disclosed that Blake's group had made a serious misrepresentation. They tried to assign blame by suggesting that Jed Wallace's lawsuit was the reason for the holdup. Friedman, however, was not going to ignore that tale. With the invoices in hand, he revealed that, in fact, it was Blake who had filed a lawsuit against Wallace in Texas on January 21, 2 weeks before Wallace had even responded. According to Friedman, the Lively party conveniently forgot that Ms. Lively initiated the current legal action in Texas. She filed a complaint against Mr. Wallace in Texas State Court approximately 2 weeks before his answer to the federal lawsuit on January 21. The impudence. A stunned silence fell over the courtroom. It looked like Blake's group had been caught trying to trick the judge, and Brian was serious about making sure they didn't get away with it. Lehman promptly rejected their request for a 1-month extension, not to evaluate his delight. Instead, he simply offered them another day to turn in their change. The disappointed expression on the faces of Blake's legal team was unavoidable. They looked like a troupe who had just realized they had run out of tricks, with their heads down and shoulders down. Lehman was very clear about that. Since his team hadn't offered a convincing justification for their need for more time, Blake wasn't going to allow them to drag this case out any further. And just when it seemed impossible for Blake's side problem to get worse, it did. Remember how Blake's lawyers had hurriedly tried to impose a gag order on Brian Friedman to prevent him from speaking to the media? But that move was a complete failure. It was swiftly shut down by the court. Well done, but no. The ruling allowed Friedman to continue publicly discussing the matter, which was exactly what Blake's side had been trying to stop. While you are trying to control the conversation, picture the court handing a microphone to your most persistent opponent. Despite Blake's team's best efforts to silence Friedman, the court had effectively granted him permission to keep exposing every ugly reality. This court struggle became even more of a public spectacle after another major loss. When Justin Baldoni's legal team launched a website solely focused on the case, Blake's side was in a state of confusion. The shocking revelation came over the weekend when Baldoni's team unveiled a newly designed website that contained an amended court complaint, a meticulously crafted 168-page chronology of events, and, most damning of all, never-before-seen text exchanges allegedly between Blake and Baldoni. The website contained more than just legal documents. It was a fully operational digital repository that the public could view, including documentation, invoices, and video. This open invitation for everyone following the case to investigate the facts for themselves effectively damaged Blake's team's attempt to keep the details under wraps. Blake's team was in much more trouble now that the matter was being disputed not only in the courts but also in the public eye. The more they tried to break through the enclosing walls, the more the odds seemed to be against them. Actor Ryan Reynolds, her spouse, has also been further implicated in the Blake Lively affair. One alleged text message Reynolds allegedly sent to Baldoni, in which he writes, "This is going to be incredible," demonstrates how excited he was initially about "It ends with us. As it happens, I adore you, Justin." At the time, it was a quite encouraging and polite comment, but given the current circumstances, it now has a whole different meaning. Already under stress from many court setbacks, Blake's legal team made a valiant attempt to get the website taken down. They pleaded with the court to decide that Justin Baldoni's side should not release such evidence. But the court didn't believe it. Their disagreement was simple. Blake's gang had already made the struggle public. By framing their viewpoint in major media outlets, like the New York Times, they demonstrated that they were ready to compete in the court of public opinion when it suited them. For what purpose has Baldoni's crew been silenced? Blake and her lawyers couldn't turn around and demand that Justin keep quiet now that he was retaliating, if going to the media didn't upset them. The legal team for Blake might now be unsure just how much worse things can go. They have failed at everything they have tried. Their efforts to assume control of the situation have all been unsuccessful. Furthermore, the probability of losing this lawsuit rises with every failed strategy. The fact that $400 million is at stake should not be overlooked. It's not just a bad loss, it's a career-ending one. Such a financial setback would be terrible, even for well-known Hollywood celebrities Blake and Ryan. This would force them to carefully re-evaluate their upcoming projects, funding, and support. The case now involves more than just reputation and legal fees. There could be a financial catastrophe. It's not just a question of whether Blake will lose here. It's the maximum amount of stress her team can endure before completely collapsing. With every ruling, new piece of evidence, and tactical error, it seems like they are losing ground on this case. How do you all feel? Is this the beginning of the end for her legal case, or will Blake and his team be able to turn things around? To ensure you don't miss any updates, don't forget to subscribe. You can also share your thoughts in the comments area. To ensure that you don't overlook any modifications, and share your thoughts in the comments section. And share your thoughts in the space provided for comments.